Hi, this is Hebert, former NHL netminder, and I am the mask in the mask and the mic, and my partner, Kent French. Yes, he loves to talk. He's the mic.
Yes, I'm here. I should be the mic and the mic. I mean, it almost seems like it's...
Yeah, didn't we say the mask and the mic and the mic? Like
the mask, the mic, and the mic.
Double mic?
Yes. So I'm Kent French. I am the mic in this equation thing. And hey, so stoked here. We have another special guest coming on the program. You'll be familiar with him in his days with the San Diego Gulls and, of course, with the Anaheim Ducks. He is now a current Buffalo Sabre. We're talking about Sam Carrick. And Gibo, we can all appreciate the way that Sam brought it 100% night in, night out on the ice.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He was one of our all-time favorites, a fan favorite. In some of my keys over the years,
right.
I would say Sam's got character. Kind of, you get it? Character?
Yeah,
whatever.
well done.
But he does. He is just 100% effort all the time, a joy to watch.
And we talk about his family syrup business. Yes, that and much more coming at you right now on a podcast we like to call The Mask and the Mic. We hope you enjoy the show, and Gibo, as always.
And good for us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Mask and the Mic. Kent French alongside Guy Bear, and a very special guest on the East Coast joining us. Former Anaheim Duck, San Diego Gull, now current Buffalo Sabre, Sam Carrick is joining the program. Sam, thanks so much for being here. Cannot believe we got a hold of you. What is going on in the life of Sam Carrick right now?
Oh, well, first of all, thanks for having me, fellas. Happy to do anything for you here. And yeah, not a whole lot. Obviously, this time of year, we're just gearing up for another year at camp. And yeah, if I don't know what year it is for me now, 15 or 16 that we're going into. So
Unbelievable.
Nothing new, but yeah, I'll always, you always get those pre-camp jitters.
Well, I mean, listen, Sam, you should be, extremely proud of what you've done in your career. I mean, just off the top, when you're thinking about, I don't know if this is year 14 or 15 or 16, there's not a lot of guys who play professional hockey can actually say that. So, I mean, big props to you, what you do, on the ice, off the ice, preparing yourself for every season. It is a difficult job to be able to prepare yourself for yet another season, another training camp. And, as we get older, it's not as easy as we were when we were younger. And I'm not throwing any shade at you that you're old, but being able to play this long is, certainly a great, I think I ended at 34. I think you're 34. So you still got a couple miles to go. But I think that you're going to continue your career in Buffalo, which has got a really exciting young team.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, it's a lot easier when you're in your early 20s. Your body seems to heal a lot better, and you don't feel like you need as much of the rest as you do now. But yeah, for myself, I always kind of, set the goal to play until I'm 32. And, now I'm 34 and I still feel really good and things are going well. And, I think every year it brings new excitement, new challenges. And that's something that I want to keep striving for as long as I can.
How has preparation changed now that you are a hockey dad? 3 boys. You were just telling me we're trying to get you on a little bit earlier. Like I gotta take my little one to practice, man. I got a lot going. You're just saying I have nothing going on. You have 3 boys. What are you talking about? You have a ton going on right now. What's it like getting ready and having 3 boys and first full season with Buffalo? How you handling all that?
Yeah, it's busy, but I wouldn't want it any other way. It was definitely just a dream of mine to have kids of my own, and to have 3 boys is that they all have the same interests that I have. I don't know if that's just the way things go with everyone, but we all they love hockey, they love fishing, they love the outdoors, and they just love doing, stuff that I like doing, golfing as well, obviously. So, yeah, I'm just extremely fortunate to have a healthy, happy family, and yeah, it's busy, but I certainly don't take any of it for granted. I know everyone tells me how fast it flies by, and just trying to soak up every moment with them while they're still young, and for me, to have them, old enough to remember that dad's still playing hockey, and they'll remember coming to games, and I definitely want to make the most of that going into this year, and excited to do that in Buffalo.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I know that, having that opportunity to bring your kids into the locker room and have them, sit in the stall and, look at, friends, right? Their friends are like, superstars and other NHL players, and it just becomes normal life. Have you had much of a chance? I know you were in New York for a couple seasons with the Rangers. Did your oldest boy get a chance to come into the locker room there?
You know what, the Rangers, it's a tough situation there with how far we lived from the rink, that he unfortunately wasn't able to come to too many games. You play the odd Saturday game at one, and obviously they come to those, but we also had an infant at that point. So it was tough. He came to, as many games as they could, but he actually, one of the highlights of my time there was he got to play in the intermission game
Oh wow.
at MSG, those
Whoa.
little intermission ones. So that was pretty cool. I got to go out and in between periods and put a hat on and just try to hide myself a little bit and watch. And it got to see him score a goal. So
Wow.
that was definitely a dream come true. Both of us. I think at that point, I don't even know if I had a goal yet that year. So he was kind of, rubbing it in that he had more goals at MSG than I did that year. So uh, that was tough to swallow, but it was pretty cool. It still gives me goosebumps thinking about, getting to do that and just experience that whole, obviously tons of history at that arena. And, for him to, be able to play at the same night that I did was pretty cool.
Yeah, you were just talking about how the longevity and how long you've been able to play this game and how tough that can be. But I want to go back to the year you were drafted in 2010, fifth overall fifth. He would have been great fifth overall. That would have been a different trajectory, I think, for you. Fifth round, I will say.
Yeah.
You should have been fifth overall if I was drafting you. By the Toronto Maple Leafs. So, a kid from Ontario going to the Leafs. I mean, what was that like when you heard your name called?
Yeah, I mean, I can remember it like it was yesterday. I think going into that year, I really didn't know whether I was going to be drafted. I heard that, that there was a good chance I'd be drafted. So my whole family went down. It was actually in LA at the Staples Center at the time. So we made a kind of family trip out of it. We had never been to California. So the whole family went out and did the whole thing. You start seeing some guys go in the draft, and you're getting excited. Some guys you played with, some guys you played against, and you're like, okay, it's coming. And then to wait around to the fifth round, it feels like a long time at the time, but looking back, I mean, to go back, to get drafted to the Leafs just made everything that much more special. Obviously, a Leaf fan growing up from Toronto, so all those guys were my heroes. So. It was just a big whirlwind, right away you're thrown into, meeting Brian Burke and meeting all those guys, meeting some of the staff, the coaches, and then you're right into development camp the next week. And it's just a huge whirlwind. And I feel like that whirlwind hasn't really stopped my whole career. It's just nonstop. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a fun ride for sure. So, to start there in Toronto was awesome. And then my career's kind of bounced around a lot after that, but made my way kind of back closer to home now that we're in Buffalo, which is nice.
Well, it's got to be great to be able to share this part of your career with, with family and friends. Like I know as a player, you get just so tunnel visioned with what you do for a living. I mean, I can remember being like out here and all my family was back east. And the only time I ever saw them is on those East Coast trips. And so, whether it was, New York or Toronto or Ottawa, Montreal, wherever it was, but I'm almost jealous in a way that at the end of your career in the next couple seasons that you have that, where people can get in the car and drive and be able to come watch you play. And so that must be special to be able to have people so close. And of course, the support system, when you have a young family, it is difficult. You're on the road so much. And I think a lot of fans always forget that, like, we're human beings. Like we are, we're dads, we're husbands, we have wives and children. But to balance that all, especially with three young ones, I'm sure that your family is very supportive. And when you're on the road, especially being able to help out with the kids.
Yeah, it's huge for sure. Obviously, they were unbelievable. My family and my wife's family coming out all the time, even when we played out in Anaheim, San Diego. Obviously, we always joke with them that it's a lot easier come visit us when we're in San Diego than some of the other places I've played. But they my whole career they've made a point to I mean, whether it's once a month or once every couple months, they come out, they see us. It's awesome to have them, and I've kind of slowly made my way back closer to home with each team that I've played on. So, obviously, I felt like I was getting nice and close to home when I signed with the Rangers, and it's still an 8-hour drive, hour flight. And then things couldn't have worked out better. To get traded to Buffalo at the deadline last year, and to go on that run with the team and see what the city's all about here. It's truly just a great sports town, and they showed it. They showed up for us, and it was just so much fun. Experience for my whole family to come down. My brothers were loving it. My mom and dad, all the in-laws and everything, and it was just so much fun. So really revamps your whole career, and it just makes you look forward to getting back to that spot.
Sam, you mentioned Anaheim. And so with Toronto, you're kind of up and down, with the Marlies. Then you signed a one-year deal with the Hawks, and then you were traded to the Ducks. I believe it was at the 2017 trade deadline, and played with the Gulls. So, and I think if my math is right, the year before you got traded to the Ducks, it was the Gulls' inaugural season as the franchise is today. What was that experience like for you, your career, to play in San Diego, and did it kind of help you jumpstart it again to be able to get back to the NHL?
For sure, yeah. I think once I left Toronto and was in that Rockford phase, I think I had a lot of maturing to do at that point. To be honest with you, I wasn't taking hockey too seriously. I was still young. Didn't really have it all figured out by then. And then, when you do get traded, it's almost like a bit of a wake up call. Like, okay, like I need to kind of figure this out. And, your career only lasts so long. So, to go to a place like San Diego was a bonus because, just obviously great living outside of hockey. And, that really made me think like, I really do want to, have a long career in this game. And whether it's in the NHL or AHL, I want to make the most of it. And, really started taking, my career more seriously, I guess you could say. And, obviously, a lot of up and down from San Diego to Anaheim over 4 or 5 years that I was there, and, just trying to make the most out of each opportunity. It's tough. Everyone knows, it's a tough league to get called up in, but it's even tougher to stick around. So, took me a long time to kind of figure everything out, and obviously took the scenic route to get to be that full-time role. And I still don't take it for granted. I'm still going to every camp, trying to make the team and trying to do what I can to help the team. But a lot of lessons along the way that maybe looking back, I wish I picked up on a lot earlier. But really wouldn't change a thing.
Now, I know, as a player, especially, a younger guy developing, I had the same thing. I went from a small college, signed a pro contract, got sent to the minors. But all through that process, like you always have to have somebody in your corner. And for me, I had a certain scout that was always pumping me up. And then finally, when I had signed a contract, but he was kind of the guy all throughout my career that was always, making sure they didn't forget about me or getting me the opportunity to play. And I know that you have a good relationship with Dallas Eakins. And I think that goes back a number of years. I think back to your days in Toronto and the American League. But, was Dallas one of these guys that was kind of always, I not looking out for you, but a guy who was a support system for you throughout your career?
Yeah, he was big time. I mean, you said it. Like, we go back to Toronto, my very first year. That was the lockout year in 2012, and we had some numbers issues there. We had a lot of guys that should have been on the Leafs that were down with the Marlies, so I got kind of pushed to the East Coast League, and he was great to me that whole year. He knew what the circumstances were, and I think he always believed in me. And you never really know how much say he would have had in bringing me into Anaheim's system. But once I did get there, the support continued, and obviously he ends up getting the head coach job with Anaheim, and I think he just was comfortable with my game, knew my game, and was comfortable calling me up. And, it's not like I was, tagging along with him the whole ride. I went back to, San Diego and, continued to prove myself down there. And I think he always, like you said, he was always in my corner. Anytime I'm sure they have conversations about who they're going to call up. And I think, you need a guy like that that's in your corner. And I was lucky to have, Dallas and among a bunch of other coaches that, I think I've just built their trust over the years. And, at the end of the day, they were able to help me, solidify myself and get called up.
You were the C down there in San Diego. I think it was like your second year that you got there, and you put up some big numbers down there as well. I mean, what was that environment like? As I mentioned, it was like the second year that it became an AHL franchise. What was the environment like playing in that barn in San Diego? So it was an old school barn.
Yeah, it was
old
pretty, it was
school.
pretty
I
old
played
school.
in that barn.
That's
Yeah.
me. It's old school,
Yeah.
really old school. Then,
Yeah, we had some old school games too. I mean, every team in that division had a couple of heavyweights that they'd bring in. In San Diego, we'd always make sure we carried two or three of big boys that in case the games got out of hand. And the atmosphere in San Diego was second to none in the American League. The fans loved it, especially the rough stuff. So, those games were a lot of fun, especially I think we'd have Friday nights would be $2 beer night, and a lot of college kids would come out to the game. So like it was one of the more fun atmospheres I've ever been a part of, really. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was a blast. And, I think that's part of the reason, I was able to kind of thrive in that. I like when the atmosphere picks up and, it just gives you that much more energy. And, like you said, I was able to, have some better years, obviously play a different role in that league than I do in this one. But, I think you got to find ways to just help your team out. And down there, I was more of a point producer guy, which, it's fun. And then, once I kind of got called up, I realized, all right, I'm probably not going to be on the power play up here. So I need to find a way to, help the team and make myself noticed and make myself stick around, not give them a choice. Don't let them send me down.
Well, I mean, I know that, Frenchie, we've watched many a game when you played here in Anaheim, and, kind of the constant theme that we always noticed and all the fans noticed was the fact that you were 100% effort all the time, and you were willing to stick up for your teammates all the time. And, a lot of times you were grabbing somebody who was much bigger. Now, we had Stu Grimston on last week, and we got to go down some memory lane stuff with Stu, but like his job back in the day when I played and we played together certainly is completely different than the role today, right? You have to be able to play a regular shift in the NHL right now. I mean, you can't be a guy who sits on the bench for, 38 or 42 minutes and gets tapped on the shoulder to go out and kind of do your job. So, I mean, to be that competitive and have to be that well-rounded, because you've been so successful over your career, can you attribute it to one thing? Is it because you're willing to do that and be scrappy? I remember being on the penalty kill unit here. You got a lot of opportunity to perform at different levels than, just the physical level. But, you certainly have been able to show your skill level throughout the course of your 15 years.
Yeah, I think, growing up, all of us as kids, we dream of being the skill guy, the guy that's scoring 50 goals a year and all that. But at a certain point, you kind of you have to figure out a way to stick around. And for me, I mean, I think I just tried to. My mindset has always been, my whole career has been, I don't want to have any regrets when I finally do hang them up. Anytime I get to put on an NHL sweater, I want to leave it all on the ice. I don't want to have any regrets at the end of the game, and because you never know, you never know when your last game will be. Especially throughout my career when I've been mostly called up and sent down. A guy gets an injury or a guy's sick, I get called up for a game, and then as soon as he's back, I'm sent back down. I really didn't know when my last game would be, so I would go into that game, and just try to leave it all on the line. And part of that is sticking up for teammates and creating energy whenever you can. But Um, I think that's just always been my mindset every game is just, no regrets. Whatever happens, happens. But, I'm going to stick up for my teammates. And if I feel like my team needs a little bit of a push or some energy, then, you know, try to find a way to do that, whether it's a big hit or a fight or just a good shift. That sometimes that just gets the crowd into it. And you can really swing momentum in games. So that's kind of been the MO of my whole career is, just I don't want to leave any regrets when it's all said and done.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm so
I
glad,
mean,
Gibo, you brought that up.
yeah,
That's
it's great
exactly right.
advice.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like for not just, NHL, but kids at any level playing is like, just, play with maximum effort and you never know when you're not going to be able to play anymore and, don't have any regrets. That's, we should have a t-shirt like that, Frenchie.
I think so, and it goes to your point. Like you don't know, when your career's gonna end. So leave it all out there, all the time. And I remember Gibo. I'm so like I said, I'm so glad you brought that up. I remember every post game show when Sam was playing, we'd show like a highlight reel of Sam Carrick of what he was doing out there on the ice, and it was getting into a fight, protecting, standing up for his teammate. It was taking a hit. It was giving a hit. It was getting in front of the net, going to the dirty areas. All the things that you were the epitome of a grinder, right? You did it all. And it was such a pleasure to watch. And we knew that you had the respect of the coaching staff and your teammates as well, because they knew that you left it all out on the ice.
Yeah, I think for me, like you got to earn your next game, right? Like that's just because you're putting on that sweater one day doesn't mean anything can happen the next day. And I went through that my whole career. You get that call into the GM's office, and you know exactly what's coming.
Yeah.
So just trying to avoid that meeting with the GM as much as I could, and earn my next day in the NHL. And I think that's something that I've stuck with me even now into my 30s. I'm still trying to make every day count in this league because it really is. It's a privilege to be able to play this game and play in this league. And I'm super lucky, super fortunate, and to be in the spot I'm in. So yeah, trying to make the most of it.
Giba and I kept saying, when's he going to get a contract? Get this guy a contract. Well, yeah. And you finally signed, I think it was a 2-year deal with the Ducks. And we're like, well, you can't really take a breath. So
Yeah.
it was after you played 64 games, I think it was. You had a good year. You're playing all the time. I mean, you signed that contract. Are you still thinking that same mentality, Sam? I gotta go prove it every single day.
Yeah, because if I'm not, I don't know if we had a new coach that next year or not, but it's always like coaches obviously there's a lot of turnover there, and you're always trying to earn a new coach's trust. So you never know. You got new guys come into camp every year. There's always a young guy coming to take your spot, and I don't think it's ever good to put up your feet and sign a new deal and think, all right, I'm set now. I can take my foot off the gas. So for me, I mean, I think I'm on the longest term contract I've signed since my entry level now. It's 3 years, but I still kind of take it, every year treat it as a contract year, treat it as a year that, you're going to try to get paid as much as you can that summer. And it's a very much of what have you done for me lately league. So, you see guys sign these big deals and, it doesn't pan out. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be a guy that earns every dollar that he's signed for and then some. So, yeah, that's. I mean, I do remember that year signing that 2-year deal was nice. But it certainly wasn't. Put my feet up and enjoy it now. It was just time to get to work again.
Yeah, and then after that, so then you get traded a couple years later to Edmonton. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is it was your first taste of playoff action, right?
Yep.
What was that like? I think you played 10 total games. You guys ended up going to the finals and losing the Panthers, but what was that experience like? We talk about environments. I mean, playing in Edmonton in the playoffs and the Stanley Cup finals. I mean, that must have been pretty incredible.
Yeah, it was amazing. That whole run with Edmonton, getting traded there was to go to a Canadian city. Obviously, I'm Canadian, and I know what hockey means to Canadians, and especially out there in Alberta. The Oilers are everything to Edmonton, and for us to go on a run. They had been starving. I think talk about like the dark ages there in the 2010s for them. Not much going on. A lot of first overall picks, and to finally break through and have a team go on a run like we did was amazing. Losing Game 7 in the finals was heartbreaking. Obviously, that's something that sticks with you. But look at the big picture. I mean, it was just an amazing experience to share with my family. My wife, kids came up. Obviously, my parents were in and out a lot, and um, yeah, it was it's hard to put into words. How much fun that was and what that meant to us. But really, just leaves you wanting more at the end. So it was a great run. But I think it leaves that kind of bitter taste in your mouth when you don't win. So, which is probably a good thing. Gives you a little motivation to go that extra mile in the summer and try to get there the next year.
Well, yeah, bittersweet. But, there's a lot of guys, including myself, that, it's like I'd give my left arm to have gotten to the finals. And, I mean, yeah, it's heartbreaking losing Game 7. And I probably wouldn't want to go through that myself. But as a kid growing up, all of us playing street hockey, we're always playing in Game 7s, the Stanley Cup finals, making the save or scoring the goal. But I mean, what an incredible thrill it really must have been just to be able to kind of realize a childhood dream to get to the Stanley Cup finals. I mean, a magical run through the, each round, which in itself is, a war. And then to get to the finals, like, was there one thing as you went into the Stanley Cup finals and you're sitting there thinking, okay, like, we're 4 wins away from the Stanley Cup. And then it's like, oh, okay, we're 3 wins away from a cup and 2 wins away, 1 win. I mean, I know that the Ducks, shortly after I retired, went to the Cup Finals, lost to New Jersey in Game 7, and I remember the heartbreak of Paul Kariya and all the guys, and they said it kind of fueled the fire for them to continue to try to improve. But I mean, I can just imagine just standing there on the ice, looking at the crowd, thinking about, hey, when I was a kid, this is even better than I ever dreamed. Is that something that you could say, like, this is better than the kid standing in the driveway?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's like the best worst roller coaster you've ever been on in your life. The highs and lows that you go through a playoff run are tough to explain. You win the first game and you think it's going to be easy. It's like, all right, we're winning the cup this year. Round 1, game 1, you win, and then you lose the next game. You're like, oh, I don't know if we can do this. Like, these guys are good. And for us, it was like that the whole way through. And there was no easy opponent. Obviously, any team that makes the playoffs is going to be one of the better teams in the NHL. And going into the finals, we end up losing game 1. Even though we probably should have won it, I feel like we outplayed them, but that's how it goes. Sometimes goalies will steal a game for you, and
Yeah,
yeah, and then we lose game 2, and we're going back to Edmonton. The building's buzzing, but we lose game 3, and all of a sudden we're down. We're down 3-0 in the finals, and talk about an all-time low. To get think about getting swept in the finals, and then you start leaving it all out there. And I wasn't playing. I played one of the games, but watching the guys go out there and battle back to force a game 7 was just incredible. And they did an amazing job. Obviously, they have best players in the world on that team, and to watch those guys in their element and do what they do best was pretty awesome for me to stressful for sure. I think it'd be less stressful playing than it is watching, but just a great experience for me to play and watch and just learn so much from what it takes to win, and what a playoff run is all about. And it's really, if there's one word, it's a roller coaster.
When we started chatting, you mentioned when you're growing up and you're playing street hockey, you always imagine having that elite skill, being that guy, right? Gretzky-esque. You had a chance to play with somebody who's certainly up there near the top, or right now at the top, arguably, in Connor McDavid. What was it like being around him and being able to watch him up close and personal?
Yeah, I mean it's humbling being out there with them in practice and everything. You step on the ice for practice, and most guys kind of coast around. Get the legs going a little bit, warm up. Kind of go half speed, and he steps on the ice and he's flying. The speed that he can get to that just seems effortless. Is It doesn't really make sense. So um, yeah, I mean, it's humbling, it makes you want to work harder and do more, but, pretty special, to get to, play with a bunch of those guys on that team, and just watch, the amount of highlight reel plays I saw in my 3 months there was, it seems like every day you're seeing something and you're just like, how the hell did he do that? So, um, it was fun to get to play with those guys instead of against them for a little bit, and
Yeah.
yeah, fun run, learned a ton, and I'll take all that with me throughout my career.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you're on the ice with special players, it really seemingly makes the game easy, and you sometimes really can't put your finger on it. I mean, I had the chance to play against Gretzky, and I played with Solani and Kriya, and watch them in practice every day. And I think for me, watching guys like that is that it's natural, right? They have this natural ability, but a lot of people don't realize how hard the top players in the league actually do work and train in the off season or train during the season. And I mean, I would tell stories about Paul Kariya and people wouldn't believe it. I'd be like, well, Tame was laying on the training table watching Jerry Springer, and then Paul's in the weight room, lifting every weight he can find because he wanted it's just what he did, right? He did everything he could to make himself be the best player, but it certainly rubs off on everybody else that's in that locker room. So I'm sure that you've been able to take some of that and bring it with you for your career, no matter where you've been.
For sure, yeah, yeah. You see guys. I've seen both ends too, and I'm probably one of those guys watching Jerry Springer in the locker room as well. But
Tame was somehow pulled it off.
Nothing
right?
wrong with that.
Yeah, you need a couple of guys that are out there, doing everything they can. And yeah, you're right though. Like obviously, for my role, I gotta do the extra work in certain things. Specialize it in the role that they need me to do. At the end of the practice, I'm not taking one timers off the half wall, but like to work on faceoffs and the little things, that add up throughout a game that matter. And yeah, I mean, you said it, like it's special getting to see those guys in their element. And a lot of people don't realize, they say they want to, they want to skate like McDavid one day, and they don't realize the work that it takes. And um, yeah, I mean, that guy's he's earned everything he's gotten. People can talk about how natural ability and everything, but getting to see it day in and day out, there's a lot of work that goes into it. And, I learned a ton from a guy like that.
Sam, for a guy that still hasn't taken anything for granted when it comes to playing in the NHL, you must have played through some tough injuries. Because as we were talking about, I mean, you just put your body on the line each and every night that we saw you playing with the Ducks. What are some of the worst injuries that you've had to play through because you didn't want to come out of the lineup? Like you said, there's always a young guy waiting behind you to jump in. What are some of the tough ones that you had to go through?
Yeah, I mean, lots, right? I mean, I would say I've actually been pretty lucky with my career, but you're always playing through nagging stuff that, like you said, nothing that's going to keep you out of the lineup, nothing that's you're going to allow someone to come in and take your job. So, the year that we talked about with Anaheim, where my first kind of full year, I ended up having to get hip surgery at the end of the year, that year. That was probably, playing through that was tough because, it was at the end of the year. At that point, we were out of playoffs, and, you don't want to be a guy that looks like, okay, well, I'm just going to mail it in now. There's only 10 games left or whatever it was. You don't want to, it's just a bad look, right? So had to fight through that a little bit until I couldn't anymore. And, then it was like, okay, I need to get this surgery so I'm ready for next year kind of thing. And, that surgery, it probably took a full year before I felt like myself again. And, the numbers show the next year, I didn't have a great year. I tried to do what I could, that year, but just really never felt, coordinated, didn't feel like an athlete for a full year. So, you get that. Last year I dislocated my elbow. That one was tough. That's back to feeling good now. And, there's lots of little bumps and bruises and some broken bones and some cuts that they seem to heal quickly and you can play through them. And but yeah, the two big ones were the hip and the elbow for sure.
Now, I know a lot of, when we get into our almost mid 30s and, you're still able to play the game. And I know I'm not going to steal Frenchie's thunder because I know he's got a question about your afterlife of hockey or what you're kind of currently doing before the end of your career. But, what do you see Sam Carrick doing down the road? Is this something where you would love to stay involved with hockey when your playing days are over? Or are there other passions that you'd like to follow? Or like me, I just kind of fell into anonymity for like a decade, and I was like driving my daughter to school and going to AYSO soccer and, like just kind of really embracing the fact that I could just be at home.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn. There's tons of things I want to do for sure. A lot of goals that I have after hockey. And one of them is just be a dad, like you said. That I think one of the hardest things about, playing pro hockey is the amount of moves you do. Every year, you're moving into a new house, and, to have a home base is something that you don't really take for granted. And, to be there and not have to move, obviously guys on long contracts can do that, but throughout my career, it's been a lot of moving. So, I'd love to stay in hockey at the end of the day. If anyone will hire me, who knows? I have, I feel like I can bring something to the table. Still not sure what that would be. I haven't put a ton of thought into that aspect yet, but, yeah, you want to find something that you love to do. And for me, I mean, I love the outdoors. I love, obviously we can get into my brothers and their maple syrup business and how I can help out with that more. And just find something that, you wake up every day and you're excited to do. And I'm sure you guys have found that. And it's that's what you strive for, right? I don't want to be dragging myself out of bed every day and hating what I do. I want to find something that excites me and I can create goals and achieve those goals. And at this point in my career, it's maybe something to start thinking about. But obviously, my goal right now is, or my mindset is, focus on hockey.
Yeah, you got plenty of time to continue your career, but it's always interesting because I have these conversations with other guys who are still currently playing, and they're like, how did you know when you were done, and how did you know when you wanted to start something new, and it's questions that like I wish I had asked while I was still playing and had asked guys that were, kind of newly retired or even a little further down the line. So they always say information is key, and it's always great to ask questions. So, and hey, Frenchie, we might have a third spot open in the mask and the mic someday.
Bring it on. I mean, we were just, Sam, we were just talking to Corbinian Holzer. He was on the podcast, and he just hung it up. And he was trying to figure out what was going on. He's going to be behind the bench now, I think, for a junior team, right? Or the junior national team out there. So, so it was a fun conversation too. He felt it. I think it was it Giba like midway through the season or a month left. He told the boys this is going to be it, and they ended up going out and winning the whole thing.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, overseas. So, yeah, you never know, and you never know when those feelings are going to come. But as you mentioned, you alluded to it, and I'm going to go there. Let's talk syrup. And when it comes to syrup too, by the way, things are getting a little thin out here in California. If you need me to announce people walking in, Carrick Brothers, I am more than happy to do that. So I'm just putting it out there right now, Sam. But tell everybody about Carrick Brothers.
Shameless.
It is shameless plug. Ever since I've known you've had this company with your three other brothers. Please tell everybody how this all came to be.
Yeah, I'll give you the kind of shorter version if I can. I got three brothers. We grew up going up to my grandpa's farm. He was the one who kind of initially got into just making maple syrup as a hobby. He had a farm with a couple hundred maple trees, big mature ones that something that's fun to do in the spring. He's like, yeah, let's make some maple syrup. And so we'd go out there and help him tap trees as kids, running around and collecting buckets of sap and then bringing it to him. And it was a lot of hard labor to be looking back on it, which he kind of pretty smart by him to make it seem like it's a lot of fun for us kids
Oh
and
yeah.
make it a competition. And um, so we go collect the sap and dump it in the tractor and, bring it up to the sugar shack there. And just a ton of obviously great memories growing up, that just the smell of it and making enough to kind of give away to family and friends. And um, always kind of at the back of our minds and our memory of just how much fun that was growing up. So fast forward to 2020, my two of my brothers kind of graduated Canadian University here, and we're looking for what to get into. They both, got business degrees, and one of our real estate friends happened to come across this maple syrup farm that was already in operation up north in Madawaska, Ontario, and it came up for sale. It was a guy from Quebec who was retiring and moving back to Quebec, and he had all the equipment there. He had 46,000 maple trees with everything, and it was just ready to go. So obviously needed some work. We wanted to grow it. It was just him by himself, so it was a smaller operation. He said, "Listen, if I had more hands, I would make more." But kudos to them. They jumped on it and they really expanded it, grew it. Started hiring some local guys around the area, and next thing we're every year we're tapping over almost 50,000 taps, and selling it all over Canada at this point. A lot of online. We're in stores all over Canada as well now, and starting into some grocery stores. And we're working on the U.S. thing right now with the tariffs right now, but should be on Amazon. Within the next couple months is the goal. We're working on that right now, but
Nice.
pretty soon people can just go on Amazon and buy a case, and that's hopefully where we're going to get to.
For those of us that aren't familiar, you say tap trees. Are you literally like tapping a keg? You're tapping a tree, and the maple comes out, or
Yeah.
the sap comes out.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, as kids, you drill a hole into the tree with a drill. Then you hammer in a tap. It's like a metal tap, a couple inches long, and the sap when it happens in the spring when there's a freeze thaw cycle throughout the trees. At night it's cold enough for them to freeze, and then during the day it's warm enough where they thaw, and that's when the sap runs up and down the trees, and then the sap just flows through the tap into in the old days it was a bucket. Now with the operation, they're all into lines. That's all on a big slope that's gravity fed down to a big barrel, and
Unreal.
all the lines are connected to a main line, and it's a little bit more of a operation now. But yeah, it's just you take the sap from the trees, from the maple trees, and you boil that down, and the more you boil it, the thicker it gets and becomes maple syrup until it gets to a certain sugar content. So you don't add anything to it. You can actually drink the sap. We actually sell the sap as well. Maple water is what it's called. It's kind of like like a coconut water type thing. Where it's got a lot of it's very much like a sports drink,
Yeah.
natural electrolytes and all that, and all the vitamins and minerals that the tree needs. You can drink it, and it's great. I drink it during workouts. It's awesome.
Look at this. I like this.
I love that Frenchie, as a true Californian's like, what are you doing? You're
You're
what are
tapping
you
a
doing?
tree.
Like,
I don't know what you're talking about. So you have 50,000 taps. How many acres does that equate to? Like how big is this property?
There's kind of like two properties. They're both about 200 acres.
Jeez.
So maybe it's a roughly 400 acres of land. Yeah.
Am I mistaken, Gibo? This is right up our alley. Are you making maple bourbon?
No, so
You
kind
paused.
of, kind
Hold
of.
on, you paused.
What
Yes.
we do is we buy bourbon barrels,
All right.
like whether it's Jack Daniels or some
Yeah.
sort of that they're aging bourbon in, and we use those bourbons to age maple syrup in it. So it's like a bourbon aged maple syrup. So there's no actual alcohol. Like I give it to my kids. It's safe to drink. There's no alcohol in it, unfortunately, but it does give a little bit of a different flavor to the maple syrup. It's more like a butterscotchy flavor, but
Yeah.
I like using that one with like if I'm making ribs or something on the smoker.
Jeez,
It's a
that
good
sounds
marinade to throw that on the ribs, and yeah, it adds a nice, different flavor.
Yeah, and a maple cream. They got all kinds of stuff, Gibo. I've been on their
Yeah.
store. I had to go on their store
I
and check it out.
I was checking out the online store, and I was like, huh. How can we get some swag?
Merch.
Yeah, I was thinking
I know.
swag, merch.
You got some good stuff. And by the way, it was like sold out. There's like a lot of this stuff is sold out.
Yeah, it's that time of year, things are slowing down, and it's time for those guys. They've had some good summers, and I always chirp them. They say that we got summers off, but those guys got the summers off. Apparently, they're out there golfing and fishing all the time. So it's time for them to get back in the warehouse and restock the shelves and start doing some orders again.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
let's go. Well, Sam, thank you for spending some time with us. We appreciate it. We miss you out here on the West Coast, and so glad to get caught up with you. As we mentioned before, we admire the way that you came to the rink every day and that you left it all on the ice. And I think I know the fans appreciated you while you were in Anaheim, especially your 6+ years with the team and all the boys that were there as well. And it was a fun ride for us. Hopefully it was as fun for you.
Yeah, it was a blast. Obviously, enjoyed my years there. Wish we could have been more successful on the ice, and it's nice to see the Ducks, having some success now. Always rooting for them to do well. Obviously, great fan base, great people like you guys there that deserve some winning years in Anaheim, and it's great to see that panning out for them. So appreciate you guys. Thank you. All the best to you guys as well.
Can you give everybody your socials? How do you find? Well, first of all, it's Carrick, bro. We got to sell some syrup right now. Will you tell everybody how you find you? Because we have so many followers, and everyone's going to want to buy syrup now.
I mean, I'm not I don't have the socials going right now. I just got more of a private guy, but to find the syrup, it's carrickbros.com, and then they have an Instagram, Carrick Bros, or I don't know. You just search Carrick Bros, and it'll come up. I'm not sure exactly what it is,
Carrick, not the marketing.
It's the logo with the deer antlers. That's the one you'll see. So, that's the boys there. Hopefully, give them a follow, and obviously appreciate all the support. We've had tons of support, everywhere I've gone from everyone in every organization. So, we appreciate it. Something fun that we enjoy doing, and people seem to love it. So it's awesome.
All right. If you want to check us out here, it's the Mass on the Mic YouTube channel. So we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Sam, thanks again. We wish you the very best for the upcoming season in Buffalo. We'll be cheering you on, man.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys.
Gibo.
And as always, good for us.